Now, although Thursday's Kim-Putin summit also ended without a joint statement, it was the visuals that mattered in Vladivostok perhaps as much as words. Absent many details about the closed-door meetings, much of the coverage focused on the theatrics around the summit, such as what it seemed to be the Game of Thrones themed gifts and the North Korean leader's somewhat sinister-looking choice of transport, the armored train, and the fact that the summit seemed to go as planned was, well, a victory for the Kremlin. So what did North Korea's Kim Jong-un manage to get out of his first tete-a-tete with the Russian president? Was Vladivostok a coup for Vladimir Putin? Is it any more than great optics? Will this complicate things for Presidents Moon and Trump? So many questions, so few answers. To help us dissect, understand, and make sense of this situation, we have our go-to expert, Harry Kazianis, joining us live from Washington, D.C. Harry is Director of Korea Studies at the Center for National Interest. Harry, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Now, Harry, first off, the summit couldn't have gone smoother in terms of optics, the theatrics. The two leaders looked at ease with one another, if you will. They remained tight-lipped about what was discussed, though, during the face-to-face. In your view, what was discussed between the two?
I think more than anything else, I think both leaders agree, and I think actually broadly throughout Northeast Asia, that the only way to get to a fully denuclearized Korean peninsula is a step-by-step process. Now, I think a lot of people can interpret that in many different ways, but I think broadly what that means is that the United States and North Korea would make concessions essentially simultaneously. I mean, for example, the North Koreans could give up their Yongbyon nuclear facility in exchange for maybe 1 or 2 UN Security Council resolutions that would be removed. And you would essentially keep going through this process where each side gives up something step by step until you get into a fully denuclearized North Korea and Korean peninsula. The challenge is, unfortunately, Washington does not want to do that. They want North Korea to completely denuclearize before they relieve sanctions. And I think that's something that was very much on the minds of Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un.
So things aren't looking so smooth in the immediate future either in terms of North Korea-Russia versus, or North Korea-Russia versus U.S. at the moment. Now, we just got news out of North Korea state media of a message out of Kim Jong-un that North Korea, among others, is prepared for all kinds of scenarios. North Korea's leader has said that the peace and security on the Korean peninsula entirely depends on the future actions taken by the United States. That statement apparently was made during the first summit between Putin and Kim Jong-un. Why do you think that statement was made during that time, and why make such statement at such time?
You know, I think the North Koreans are angry. From everything I've been able to piece together, from officials from Blue House, officials from the White House, in Hanoi, there was the auspices of a deal. In fact, you can actually find it by reporter Alex Ward in the news outlet Vox. He actually had an outline of what the deal looked like. It wasn't completely solidified, but we can tell that there was things like a peace declaration ending the Korean War, sanctions relief for the Yongbyon nuclear facility, liaison offices, a much more integrated process where U.S. and North Korean officials would excavate the remains of the Korean War. So essentially, there was a 4-part deal on the table. What it seems like what happened, at least in my opinion, is the mood here in Washington soured, specifically when Donald Trump was watching press coverage of the Michael Cohen congressional hearings. I will tell you that from everything I've heard, Donald Trump was watching those hearings all night long. And I don't think he felt he could take the political risk by actually making concessions to the North Koreans. So if that is the case, if that is what indeed happened, Donald Trump now has a little bit of distance from the Michael Cohen hearings and a little bit of distance from the Mueller report, which we have to remember was basically consuming Washington at the time. So the conditions now might be actually a lot more ripe for Donald Trump to make some concessions and actually go step by step. And I would actually remind everybody, in his press conference with Moon Jae-in in the Oval Office, Donald Trump actually did use the words step by step, which is actually the opposite of what Steve Biegun, Mike Pompeo, and John Bolton have been saying. So maybe Donald Trump will be the one to come in and actually make this happen.
Well, a step-by-step approach is something that President Putin also said he supported to Kim Jong-un yesterday. But Donald Trump, speaking of watching, do you think he was watching this very summit between President Putin and Kim Jong-un as well? Because Vladimir Putin said he will be discussing this very summit with Kim Jong-un with President Xi when he goes to meet him today, as well as the United States. Now, how is the U.S. watching this friendship develop between Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin? And what about South Korea, really, as well?
They're watching this very carefully. I checked in with several White House friends of mine, and I can tell you they're watching this very intently, making sure that there wasn't any too close of a relationship building here. And I think they understand that Kim Jong-un is going to reach out to other countries. I think we have to look back to North Korean history. Kim Jong-un's grandfather, Kim Il-sung, was very good at playing off the great powers against one another. He would go to the Soviet Union and get aid. He would go to China to get aid. He was very good at sort of playing everybody off at one another. So Kim might be actually doing the same thing here. And I think Washington is very leery of that. And I think they're very concerned. As for South Korea, I think South Korea is also watching this very carefully. But I think Kim understands that the only way that he is going to get sanctions relief is he's going to need to have another summit with Moon Jae-in. I think he understands that Moon Jae-in has Donald Trump's ear. They just recently had a summit, as I mentioned. And I think the only pathway to really getting this done is for Moon Jae-in to step in, to be that facilitator, to really to get points across to both sides, to sort of let everybody know where they stand. We can talk about this summit with Vladimir Putin, but at the end of it, it's a summit with Moon. I think that's going to be the most substantive and make a difference.
Well, while the summit was going on, there was a meeting between President Moon and an official from Russia. So we're going to take a look what was happening there first with our reporter.
A constructive contribution to the peace process on the Korean peninsula is how President Moon Jae-in assessed the first summit meeting between the young North Korean leader and Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday. During his sit-down with Secretary of the Security Council of the Russian Federation, Nikolai Patrushev, President Moon said he hopes the first Pyongyang-Moscow summit serves as a foundation in spurring the process for nuclear talks between Pyongyang and Washington, as well as the denuclearization drive of the Korean peninsula. The South Korean leader also expressed his hope that he could meet with the Russian president in time for the G20 summit in Osaka in June this year, as well as his visit to Seoul at an early date. And in response, the visiting Russian advisor said his government will brief Seoul on the results of the summit in Vladivostok as soon as possible. Prior to a sit-down with President Moon, Patrushev also held talks with his South Korean counterpart Jong-un, where the two talked about ways to ramp up bilateral cooperation on pending regional and international issues at length. Although the presidential office did say the talks between the two security advisors were just a regular security session following 4 previous similar meetings since the start of the Moon administration in 2017, the timing, in fact, implies that the South Korean leader is keen on the developments in the region. This, as the South Korean leader has been tirelessly working to get the nuclear talks back on track between the leaders of Pyongyang and Washington.
Well, Harry, so as you just saw, South Korea was very much involved in the summit on its own here in South Korea as well with Russian officials. So finally, how do you think South Korea weighs in on this, and how do you think South Korea calculates in this equation? And we are just getting breaking news out of North Korea state media that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un extended an invitation to Vladimir Putin to visit North Korea, which the Kremlin readily accepted. So how do you think all this really works out in this geopolitical equation?
Well, I think this means that there has to be a regional solution to this problem. I mean, all countries in Northeast Asia would be impacted by, a solidified nuclear North Korea. And I don't think anybody wants that. So what we all need to figure out collectively is what is the magic solution to this? What is it going to take the United States to move off what has essentially become a hardline position? And how are we going to get the North Koreans to maybe offer a little bit more? Essentially, what needs to happen is both sides need to meet in the middle. We need to figure out how to make that happen. and how to give North Korea security guarantees. The North Koreans keep saying this over and over. They even have Vladimir Putin saying it. And I don't think it's propaganda. I think it's serious. The only reason that North Korea built these nuclear weapons, it wasn't for offensive capability because they know they'd be destroyed in nuclear war. They built them for defense. So we need to figure out a way to how to convince North Korea to give up those weapons and find a solution that America can accept. And I think we can get there. I truly do.
All right, Harry Kazianis, Director of Korea Studies at the Center for National Interest. Thank you, as always, for speaking with us.
Thanks for having me.